Today I received a question, and while I already answered this to the individual who asked this question, I thought it was a good topic to explore with the greater audience. So, the question is, do you need suffering? Do you need tough times um, for you to go through some character development? And for some context, the person who asked this question, we've been talking for a fair bit of time, but initially there were many different hurdles, and going through very different types of difficult times. But over time, and through me repeatedly drilling kind of the same points over and over again, this person has come to experience, oh wait, wow, I can look at things differently. But it needed I needed that kind of emotional intensity to ramp up in order for me to come to kind of a reckoning. So they have experienced this in person, but the greater context is they have a sibling, and the sibling is having a tough time. But because they went through this kind of a personal character development, they also would like for the sibling to experience this personal development too. But in order to do that, do does the sibling need suffering in order to do this, or can we give them kind of a advice and guide them towards a good path so that they can kind of bypass the suffering and yet get the benefits from the personal development? And the simple answer is, you don't need to have to go through a tough time, right? Because tough times are just a way to, again, boil up the intensity of the emotional experiences so that the stakes become a little bit more real for you. So many people go through big ups and downs in life, and then in one of those really down points, they realized, oh, they have nothing to lose. Oh my god, I thought this was a horrible situation, but it turns out like this is great because I can take all the risks in the world right now because I have nothing to lose. And then so there's many stories like this in the popular media, right? But at the same time, Buddha, the man who understood everything and awakened through everything, he didn't really suffer in the early days of his life because he was a prince, and he had all the riches in his kingdom. Everything was just kind of provided for him. There were servants, there was food that was cooked, and then Buddha, being a royal blood, when there was like a royal party, he was always involved in it, right? But at an early age, he started forming this question, especially after he ventured outside of the castle. Was like, wait, why is life so different for these people? So he experienced the stark contrast between the life inside of the castle and life outside of the castle, just outside of the castle. It's not that he needed to make this really long trip in order to, get to this really drastically different place. Like, as soon as he stepped outside of the palace, he could see that something was very different about the lives of these people. So, Buddha, that was the beginning spark of his intense curiosity about what suffering is and what we can do to completely eradicate it from our lives. But it's not like he was robbed by those people. It's not like he was plagued by these people. It's not like these people beat him up or anything. But he had such a personal problem with this situation where he didn't understand what life is. He didn't understand what suffering is. Why do we suffer? And so, even inside the life of a kingdom and the palace, right? When you have a sufficiently deep problem that is so personal to you, and it occupies your mind so deeply, that is kind of like the prerequisite for a deep level of awakening, right? You're preparing yourself for a deep awakening by intensifying the curiosity of like, why? How do we get that? Is it this? Okay, let me try this. This didn't really work. Is it this? Let me try this. So when you look at Buddha's life, he went through, you know what, maybe like it's and he asked his dad, right? Dad, why do people suffer? And they're like, oh, it's because they haven't had experienced the riches like you do. So why do you feel bad? Oh, let me get you more money, let me get you more food, let me get you more ladies, let me get you more wine, right? So Buddha tried that, but he found that it always comes back. And so Buddha was like, after he left the palace, he was like, okay, let me try voluntary. Like, maybe it's because I haven't really suffered the peak of suffering. And then once I hit the peak, I'm like, wow, everything else is just kind of, like, I don't suffer anymore. So he tried that for 6 years. And he did it with a bunch of other people who were engaging in the same kind of practice, but nobody took this as seriously as Buddha. So he really drove himself to his limit. Like, he almost died, right? And then he decided, no, even this. No, I have been just head down on this path of voluntary suffering, and I can see nobody takes this more seriously than me. Nobody, everybody else cuts corners, but I don't. I really suffered, and I can say, this is not the way. And so he came out of the woods, and then he bathed himself, ate some food, and then he sat down on a freshly cut grass, and then meditated for 7 weeks, and then understood the middle way and everything, right? So this is all possible because he began with this intense yearning to know why do we suffer, right? So the ability that you gain over time when you do personal development, you may start with this tough time, and through that tough time you may have explosive growth, right? But after that, what you are going to find that is your personal growth may be limited to this one scope where you have experience, right? So for example, if your theme is poverty, right? You were so sensitive about poverty, but then you had this big awakening about how poverty doesn't really matter. You have one experience in breaking through yourself. But now, suppose you have a problem with relationships. You don't need 20,000 breakups in order to get to this kind of a same awakening, because now, from the prior experience of you breaking through poverty, you can use that same intellectual process of why do I have a problem with this relationships, and you can use that. And the more of these topical growths you do, the more you can learn to generalize. Oh wait, across all these different problems, I'm using the same pattern of thoughts to break through problems. Oh, okay, so what is it? And the more you can harness your curiosity inside, the more you can have, the more you can engage in a general sense of awakening, right? So suffering and the tough times just help you motivate that fire inside of you, but it is in no way required. And also, who knows what qualifies as tough times? For someone who doesn't really care, so suppose if I go into monastic life, right? I shave my head and then I go into the woods. I'm gonna default on my loans, and then I can start something, and then I can go bankrupt. It doesn't matter because I already renounced society anyway, right? Suppose I'm a home cook, right? And if I mess up on something, I just order pizza. I'm okay with that, right? But suppose I'm a restaurateur, and then I have somebody reviewing my restaurant, and then I fucked up, right? It's a same scenario, but it's completely different. And in one scenario it will qualify as a tough time, in one scenario it wouldn't, right? So what I'm saying is, tough times is not this absolute thing that globally applies to anyone. And also, while it helps with character development because it helps you raise the stakes of the situation, you don't need those tough times in order to raise the stakes if you know how to do that for yourself.